was a senior in high school. Back then, I was a rebellious teenager, but only when it came to my family. I was not a bad kid by any means, just a punk when it came to my family. I had a loving family, but I was that kid who was too cool to spend time with them. They always expected me to entertain my little brother Jake, who was only 15 years old at the time of the story. I was 9 years older than him. With that age difference, we may as well have been different species. Whenever we would take trips, my family would usually stay somewhere on or near the ocean. We only lived about 5 hours from the coast, so it was an easy trip. This specific year, they decided to take a trip to Maine. Don't get me wrong, it was beautiful, and as an adult, I would love to go back, but as an 18-year-old, I thought that this was the worst trip we could ever take. Before I continue the story, let me just acknowledge that I know how much of a piece of garbage I was back then. Even as I write this, I can't believe how much of a little punk I was. We got to the house, and it was incredible. It looked like something out of a Stephen King novel, which was fitting because we were in Maine. It was a massive white house with green shutters, deep within the trees. My dad even made the joke, "This is how most horror movies start, isn't it?" Probably not the best thing to say in front of a 10-year-old, but my brother didn't care. He was just as mesmerized by the house as I was. Inside the house was almost like a maze. The back center of the house was a huge living room that had an awesome view of a forest behind the house. The rest of the house had all these hallways that intersected in places that strangely didn't make sense. It was like a house you would design in The Sims, and not something you'd see in real life. The weirdest part of this place was not the hallways. It was that the house connected to a small adjoining house, the house where the owner of the property lived. His name was Hugh. He was strange. He was tall and wore this very old sweat-stained bucket hat. His teeth were very yellow, but it wasn't his physical characteristics that stood out. It was his personality. He was goofy and loud, a bit eccentric even. He welcomed my family and acted very friendly toward us. He kept referring to how kind folks from Maine were. My family politely nodded along with him while he was talking to them. He told us that he was right next door if we needed anything, and other than that, we wouldn't hear or see him for the entire week. We weren't thrilled about having this person basically in the same house as us, but there was nothing we could do now, and we just decided to make the best of it. Well, my family decided to make the best of it. I was being the worst and telling my family that I wanted to leave. The first morning there, while we were eating breakfast, my parents told us that we were going on this great hike. I told them that I didn't want to go. After a little back and forth, they decided to let me stay at the house, and the three of them were going to go on the hike. I had just started dating this girl, Danny, and I wanted to talk to her. I knew if I went on the hike, I wouldn't get service. I was telling Danny about the house and sending her pictures of the weird layout. When I told her about the adjoining house, she didn't believe me. I told her I was going to send her a video to prove it. At the end of one of the hallways was a door. I told her that behind that door is Hugh's house. I went to open the door, assuming it would be locked, and it wasn't. The worst part of this was that the door to Hugh's was right next to the door to my bedroom. This guy's unlocked door that was right next to where I would be sleeping. I didn't love that. I ended up walking inside Hugh's house while on FaceTime with Danny. It was just a normal little house. The room I was in had a TV and a couch. Suddenly, I heard a door shut from somewhere in the house. I panicked and ran back to our side. A few minutes later, Hugh was knocking at the door. He was still cheerful and goofy and asked why I was recording videos of his house. I tried lying, but he told me that he had cameras in his house and he got alerted to one of the doors opening. When he checked it, He had me on video, flashing my phone all over the room. I just told him the truth after that, and he laughed. He made some weird comment about how nobody in Maine locks their doors. He left. And you better believe I locked the door. Maybe people in Maine don't lock their doors, but where I'm from, you lock the doors and check twice. Danny told me that she didn't trust this guy and that I needed to protect myself. I carried a large wooden chair over to the door and basically propped it against the door as a makeshift lock.
When my family came back, I told them about the weird interaction, but they were more angry with me that I went into his house. They told me they were going out for dinner. Again, I protested. They told me that they would bring food home for me. Not long after they were gone, the sun went down. I looked out the windows and it was pitch black, like no light at all. A couple of hours later, I was sitting on the couch texting Danny when I heard a loud crash. I sprang up right away. It sounded like it came from the end of the hall where Hugh's door was locked. I concluded that the sound very well could have been the sound of the big wooden chair being knocked over. My first thought was that Hugh was trying to get in. I snuck over to the hallway, wanting to catch this creep in the act. It was too dark to see at the end of the hall. I flipped the light switch, and the chair was knocked over. And on the ground next to the chair was a backpack. A backpack that wasn't mine. I ran to the screened-in front porch, locked the door, and sat in the fetal position under a patio table. I didn't know what to do. I had left my phone in the living room. Then, I heard footsteps coming from inside the house. Not erratic movements, just normal walking. I don't know exactly how long had passed, but it was at least several minutes when I saw the headlight of my dad's van. I got up, ran outside, and told them to stay in the car. That's when Hugh came over. He leaned over to my dad and said he needed to talk to him in private. He looked like he had seen a ghost. My dad told me to get into the van quickly. He drove away from the house to a grocery store parking lot. Minutes later, several police cars drove by. My dad finally told us everything. Hugh also heard the loud noise. He checked the camera he had in the hallway of the house we were staying in. It was too dark to see anything until I turned the light on. Just as he was about to turn the camera off, he saw a tall, bald man come out of the bedroom I was staying in. A man he knew wasn't my dad, and wasn't me. The man grabbed the backpack and went back into the room. Hugh ran outside immediately to help me and noticed that's right when I had locked the screen door and ducked down. He didn't want to sneak in because he thought that might put me in danger. We stayed at a hotel that night. A few months later, my dad reached out to Hugh and asked him if they ever caught the guy. They never did. Even with all the cameras, they still didn't know how he got in or what his intentions were. He could have just been a homeless man looking for shelter. At least, that's what I told myself back then, so I could sleep at night. Sometimes, the scariest things that happen to us aren't always face-to-face interactions.